Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the last module of our course, in which we will explore print and publication design. It has been a long journey when we started, and we started with understanding design and creating our own definition, along with understanding design fundamentals. And throughout this journey, me and Saurav has tried our best to make you understand the concept behind each topics and each module. The whole objective for this session, which is on print and publication design, is to make you understand the fundamentals of print and publication design, including layout principles, typography, and then use of color in creating visually appealing and functional printed materials. Typography we have already covered as a separate module, and that is going to help you out in this discussion and understanding of this module as well. So as I said, it's been a long journey, and whatever we have covered till now, everything from elements of design, design principles, typography, identity design, all aspects are going to help you out to create good publication design. So because typography, for example, you just take typography, which is a very integral part of print and publication design. And if you remember, we discussed this in detail during the our session on typography. But before we move ahead, though we have discussed design process earlier as well, let us again look into the design process to understand how it works. When in the previous sessions, when we discuss about design process, and many times it was just the linear process where we discuss about one step followed by another, and then finally you reach to the final stage. In this model, which is visible on the screen, it is a very flexible, dynamic, and unpredictable model which explains about the journey which design brings in. So, and then there is a lot of overlapping between each stages. Either you start with defining, where you define the problem, understand the problem, or gathering, where you gather the data, you refer literatures, and then find out the resources, then followed by again defining your problem. You start with ideating and then synthesizing, means deriving the main concept out of it, and then finally shifting to the realization, where you thrive, or you try to create the final product. But as visible on the screen, now these stages are overlapping, and you kind of take a forth and back. Okay, you go forward, and then if something is required, you go back, and then again do the research, and then try to find out relevant informations which can help you out to proceed further. So I hope you will remember this, that design process is not a very linear process. There are multiple things which overlaps, and accordingly it helps you to refine your final outcome and final idea. All right, so let us move ahead within this module on print and publication. If we start with the color system, there are two types of color system which is referred by everyone. One is CMYK and another is RGB. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow and black. These four colors basically comes under this category, and it is known as 4-color printing process. It combines 4 inks in a subtractive method where inks subtract light to create colors. This technique is primarily used for physical printing such as brochures, books, or maybe newspaper. So anything which is in the physical format, banners, the CMYK process are used. If you look into the RGB, in RGB, which is red, green and blue, this process combines light in an additive process to create colors. It starts with black and adds light to form hues suitable for digital screens. As visible on the screen, if you look into the process, how CMYK works. So CMYK uses tiny dots of cyan, magenta, yellow and black ink to create full color images. These dots overlap and mix to produce a wide range of colors, much more than just the primary ones. The density and then overlap of the dots, for example, when it is coming on the paper, it determines the color intensity. For example, smaller spaced out dots create lighter shades, while larger closely packed dots create darker areas. This technique allows printers to match color closely to the original image, resulting in high quality print. Right? So now you know how it works. It is basically work on the principle of putting colors in dot format and mixing and then creating another color out of it. And also depending on density, it become lighter or darker. It is similar to stippling. If you remember, we discussed this in our first module where we were talking about elements of design. So in stippling also, wherever we are putting a dense huge number of dots, the area are getting darker, and then when you have a area which has to be shown lighter, you are putting a very dots in a very open fashion. So unlike CMYK, which subtract colors to create a print image, RGB is an additive color model. This means colors are created by adding different intensities of red, green and blue. As shown on the screen, as the color mix, they form different hues. When all three colors are added at full intensity, they produce white. So this is very different than CMYK, where in CMYK this color combine and create a different kind of secondary color. So here if you are looking at this image, now these colors are combining and producing, for example, green and red combines to produce yellow, red and blue combines to produce magenta, and then you have green and blue which is combining and creating cyan. So which is quite opposite to the CMYK concept. As said earlier, RGB is used primarily for digital screens like those on TVs, computer and smartphones, because it allows for bright, vibrant color that are visible on backlit displays. So from these screens, lights comes out from the screen, and that's how we see the images and we look into the screen. The brightness comes from the light emitted by the screen itself, unlike, for example, printing where light is reflected from the paper. So the both techniques are different. In both places the science is different, and accordingly the experience is different. In a sense, the more light you add, the brighter the color get in digital screen, and with white being the brightest or highest, having a highest brightness. This makes RGB ideal for digital media as it can display vivid and intense colors that are not easily achievable in print medium. Now in physical setup, printing ink can produce different effects depending on how it is used. For example, a super print uses tints of the same colors to create texture. The first example visible on the screen. So you have a same color tints and which has been used to print on a darker tone, and because of that there is a contrast. In contrast to this, in overprints, right, where it occurs when one ink is applied over other ink. So it is something which is done in layer. So generally a darker ink is printed over the lighter one. In the previous one, in superprint, it is different. Now the lighter tint is printed on the darker one. Now the third concept is knockout printing. It is a gap left in the base color, allowing other colors, image or unprinted page to show through. If you look at the screen, now the magenta color which is in the back, it is visible through the letters. So that means the place where the letters are there, it has been knocked out. So it is see-through. So in contrast, if you look into the reverse concept, a reverse sees one color printing out of another, not allowing any other elements to show through. So it totally blocked the color. In the last option, if you look at yellow is printed out of black, blocking the cyan which is in the background. Clear? So I hope you will remember this different concepts in terms of printing ink in a different format. Now let us move ahead. This is an example of overprint and knockout where you can see how colors behave in both the cases. In overprint it is mixing. Basically it is mixing and producing a different set of colors. Whereas in knockout there is no mixing. So the one color is blocking the other color. Clear? Now let us look into the printing evolution. The evolution of printing techniques has transformed how information is reproduced and shared, and it has spanned across the centuries. Each advancement which has came in this timeline has made printing faster, more accessible and more versatile. And this is also because, and this changes happened because of the cultural drive, educational, technological growth across the globe. We have already discussed these changes in earlier modules as well. However, we will just briefly summarize it here for your better understanding. So starting with early printing, which is woodblock printing. It is one of the earliest printing techniques, originated in China around 3rd century CE, and later it spread across the different part of Asia, the Middle East and Europe. It involves carving a design, text or image into a flat wooden block and then inking the raised areas and pressing it on paper or fabric to transfer the design. So basically pressing techniques has been used. The early uses were very limited in terms of reproducing text, and mostly it was included in Buddhist scripture and illustrations. However, later this technique expanded to create patterns on textiles and artworks, especially in Japan. This is one of the early examples of woodblock print. The process was very time consuming and not easily you cannot easily reuse the text or the blocks again and again. So after a certain period of time it will be damaged, so you have to recreate it again. Now the second change happened in terms of movable type. Movable type printing was very revolutionary, and it was invented in China and later advanced in Europe, mostly by all these people like Johannes Gutenberg, who invented movable metal typeface around 1440s. It uses reusable individual characters made up of clay, metal, or wood arranged on a printing press. This method enabled efficient mass production of text and transformed global communication. However, the complexity of the characters, for example, if you look into the Chinese script, it limited the use of this kind of movable typeface. Then Gutenberg came and he invented this Gutenberg printing press. We have already discussed this during our session on Introduction to Typography. The idea is the Gutenberg printing press, it kind of revolutionized the printing by introducing movable metal type and a mechanical press. So this innovation enables mass production of books again and making them more accessible and affordable to wider group of audience and user. Then comes lithograph. Lithography printing is a very planographic technique that relies on principle that oil and water repel each other. We are not going in detail, but to understand the process, an image is drawn with greasing on a flat stone or a metal plate, and then it get treated chemically and then inked with ink, and it was then pressed to transfer the design on the paper. So again, it's a design transfer, but the whole concept of holding the ink on the plate is very different, where it works on this principle that oil and water repel each other. The next is offset printing. It was another revolution in printing technology. It is a widely used technique where an inked image is transferred from a metal plate to a rubber blanket and then onto the printing surface, usually paper. This indirect method ensures high quality, consistent print with sharp details. Offset printing is ideal for large scale production such as newspapers, magazines, and packaging. And it uses CMYK ink for full color output and allows flexibility with different materials and finishes. So we already discussed the CMYK color process, where this color combine and then mix and produce different color and different range of color. Now digital printing is a modern printing techniques that uses digital files to print directly onto the material like paper, fabric, or plastic, so eliminating the need for printing plates. It's ideal for short run and on-demand printing, offering quick turnaround time and cost efficiency for smaller quantities. Ideal for test printing as well, where you need just 1 or 2 pages. Digital printing also ensures high quality, vibrant color outputs with different options for customization, making it very popular for business cards, posters, and personalized item which you want to print. Now after digital, there is, in current scenario you will see there is 3D print as well. Now exact direct use of 3D printing in graphic design is not so much defined, but now when graphic designers are working with the physical spaces, they are using these techniques in prominence. However, this technique is quite popular in product design field. After understanding the color system and development in printing techniques, let us move ahead and then see what goes into publication design. Publication design is the art of creating visually appealing layouts for printed materials like magazines, books, newspaper, and brochures. It involves the arrangement of text, images, and other elements to ensure readability, aesthetics, and effective communication. A good publication design balances function with visual appeal. Now, if one has to investigate into the layout design for different types of books or different kind of publication, you will find designer have used different types of layouts, and they have done different kind of arrangements depending on the kind of content and user for whom the whole book has been created. So this is one example where you will see now the content has changed, and accordingly the whole layout has also changed. Now this is a book for children's, so you will see there are a lot of breathing space which has been used. Bold illustrations has been used to create more interest. So it is more about making them attracted and then helping them out to read the text and content in a very efficient manner. This is another example where you will see there is hardly any grid system which is followed, but at the same time the arrangement has been done in such a way that the whole spread look very balanced and pleasing to your eyes. Now if the content, the data becomes very huge, and then you have a different part. If you remember in the previous earlier sessions, we discussed how to segregate data when we were talking about the process and method of working on any graphic design project. So we discussed about the kind of data. Also, you segregate depends on the timeline, or if you want to emphasize something more, something which is really important in the beginning and then something which is less important at the end. So accordingly, depending on the importance, you can categorize. So here this is a layout where you can see there are different kinds of data, and accordingly the different types of layout has been used to place those data in the spread. Now this is another example. Again you will find there are this 4-column grid which has been followed in this, but at the same time these grids are getting broken by the images, and this is totally fine in terms of creating interest, and many times you have images which is going across the spread. But at the same time you see these are the places where some of the important things has been placed. So now from children's book to this book which has been which is oriented towards for the adults, it is quite different in terms of grid system and layouting. This is another story book for children. Now again you will find there is single column, and then content has been divided using iconic image. So this is how also the sections gets divided. But at the same time you look into the breathing space. When the book is for children's, you will find a lot of negative space or breathing space. At the same time you will also see the font size is bigger, and then emphasis on certain part is accordingly it has been done. This is another example. Now this is again a single column, but the arrangement also it changed from the previous one. So the idea is why each different books have a different kind of layout. Can you guess that? or can you just think about it? Why in the market there are multiple books, and each books has a very different kind of layout and arrangement of the content. This is another example. Now you can see it's a very interestingly the hierarchy has been created. At the same times there is a grid system which has been also followed, and it is making whole composition look very clean and organized and then soothing to eye. Now when the idea of having the content which has to be looked in detail, and it is dictionary is a kind of necessity, right? So you are searching something, so anyway you are going to scroll through it. Now depending on the size also the content arrangement is getting changed. So these things are playing a very significant role. Now this is a graphic novel. Here again you will find that the whole layout has been changed, and it is more of a storytelling through different panels, but at the same time the way panel has been arranged, it is also reflecting on space and time, and then the timeline which has been created in terms of understanding how the story is progressing, or how the content is changing from one panel to another panel. This is another graphic novel. Now the treatment which has been given to this graphic novel is very different to this, and this is happening because the content is changing. The content has now changed, the user has changed, and accordingly the whole layout is also getting changed. This is another example where you will see now again single column, and if you look at the left side page, where it is more about the examples we have seen while discussing the wood type prints, right? So where the wood type has been used to create prints and has been used to create the leaflet and pamphlets to communicate with the users and audience. So for all these layouts, right, whatever we have seen, if you notice, the grid has played a very important role in organizing the elements. So grid provides the foundation for well organized and visually consistent publication design, and this is what you should remember. Now we will stop here, and in our next video we will again start with the grid system and try to understand different kind of grid system, and how it has been used, how it can be manipulated and explored to create different kind of experience within a publication design. So looking forward to see you all in the next video lecture, and we will start with an understanding of grid system in the next video. Till then, goodbye and see you soon.